Conflict can lead us into some really difficult conversations. And if there's one tool in your conflict resolution toolkit that might just help you, it's listening. Listening is really difficult, especially when we disagree with what's being said, or when we feel like we're being criticised or what's being said is offensive. Judgments are hard to hear, even if they're accurate, especially when they're delivered with some sort of emotion. If we feel like we're being attacked, what are we likely to do? We're likely to either attack back or to run away. Neither of those two responses are going to help us deal with this conflict. Let me show you some examples of how people typically deal with conflict when they feel like they're being attacked. In this scenario, Courtney is telling Anne what happened to her during the day.
This organisation is such a joke. They don't care about our safety. They don't care about whether someone gets hurt. You should have seen what they had us doing earlier today, lifting and carrying those heavy boxes, putting them into the backs of those trucks without a single forklift or trolley in sight. Now not only is my back stuffed, but if a box had fallen over, someone really could have been killed.
Can you hear how what Courtney says sounds like an attack? Here's one common response.
I don't know why you're so upset, because hey, the boxes weren't that heavy and no one got killed. Don't worry about it.
And here's another common response.
Now not only is my back stuffed, but if a box had fallen over, someone really could have been killed.
That's terrible. Someone could have been killed? Yeah. I think maybe we should talk to the HR manager.
In both of these cases, Anne has clearly heard what Courtney has to say, but was she really listening? What Anne was doing was expressing to Courtney her feeling about what had happened during the day. What she didn't acknowledge is how Courtney was feeling about it, or what was important to Courtney. If Anne wants to demonstrate that she's heard Courtney, then she needs to focus entirely upon what Courtney's saying, and not about her own feelings or responses. Some of what a great listener does is really obvious. Good body language, eye contact, asking the right questions, usually open-ended questions so people can say some more. Prompting people to continue with their story and tell you how they feel or how they see the world. They're the simple things that great listeners do. They also sometimes summarise so they can demonstrate that they've understood the words that are spoken. Most people have difficulty with listening because they're not really ready to do it. To be ready to listen, you have to focus entirely on the other person and stop those other conversations that are going on inside your head, the ones that are running away or fighting with the other person. Listening is tricky because conflict usually comes out of left field and we're not ready to listen. So the first things we have to do are to get ready to listen. Turn off the voice inside our head and focus entirely on the other person. Let's see what might be going on for Anne when she hears Courtney talk about her day the way she did before.
Ugh, this organisation is such a joke.
Here we go again. She is always complaining, always whinging. She never seems happy. We did great work, we always do, and those boxes, they're going to make people's lives better when they get there. I want to feel good about what I did. She is such a downer.
They really could have been killed.
Let's talk about how we might turn off that voice inside our head. The best way to do that is to know what we're listening for. If we know what we're listening for, then we're focusing on the other person and we're not trying to respond inside our head. There's a whole lot of information in what Courtney said that will assist Anne in listening. Particularly, Courtney tells us how she's feeling and what's important to her. Let's see how Anne might respond if she's showing that she understands how Courtney feels.
You should have seen what they had us doing earlier today. They were getting us to lift these heavy boxes and put them into the backs of those trucks, but without a single forklift or trolley in sight. Now not only is my back stuffed, but if a box had fallen over, someone really could have been killed.
Oh, gee, it sounds like you're really worried that someone might have been hurt today. Is that right?
Yeah, you're right. That is how I was feeling. I mean, those boxes were really heavy.
Can you see how Anne demonstrated that she understood how Courtney felt? And then she checked in with Courtney to make sure she had it right. Now let's see how she can identify the value or the important thing for Courtney in that statement.
I mean, those boxes were really heavy.
Okay, so someone may have got hurt, but also it sounds like it's important to you that the organisation cares for the health and safety of its volunteers. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
It's really important when we're talking about feelings and values that we link them to what happened in Courtney's day. If we can do that, we can talk about what happened during the day without there being judgment or blame, and that might help us to solve the problem. So if we really want to be a great listener, especially when conflict's around, there are only a few things that we have to do. Firstly, we have to decide to listen. Focus entirely on what the other person is saying. Remember, you're trying to demonstrate that you've heard, not that you agree. Secondly, turn off that voice inside your head. Next, use your best listening skills. Don't interrupt, good body language, prompters, open questions, those sorts of things that invite the other person to say some more. Next, we want to acknowledge how the other person feels or their emotion. And remember to check in to make sure you've got it right. And finally, we want to identify what's important to that person or the value they're expressing. Again, checking in to make sure we've got it right. We all know how good it feels to be really listened to and how important it is. It's even more important when conflict's around. And if we can do it well and demonstrate empathy and understanding without judgment, without criticism, we might just have a chance of calming that conversation and working out what we're going to do about it together.